As our world gradually shifts towards clean energy and battery systems, having a domestic supply of batteries that power each country that have these resources will become increasingly paramount. Now, did you know that Australia provides 95% of the raw materials required for producing lithium-ion batteries? But almost 100% of the batteries used in Australia are imported because there aren't any battery manufacturers in Australia. Why is this so? Hello friends, and welcome to the Electrochemist. Thank you for tuning into the channel. On this channel, we discuss all things battery development, including existing lithium-ion batteries, new and emerging battery systems, battery supply chain, battery production, and battery application. If this is something that interests you, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. What I want to do in this video is to explain some of the reasons why there are no Australia-made batteries, despite the availability or resources required for battery production in Australia. As the world pursues a lower emission future and a shift from fossil fuels, batteries are rapidly taking over the energy storage and transport sector, which has seen the global market for widely used lithium-ion batteries projected to be worth $242 billion by 2026. By looking at things from a financial and global domination perspective, this puts most of the countries who have the capability to produce batteries at a very strong position. China dominates the battery production from mining to electric vehicle battery production and EV sales. However, Australia, which is the largest supplier of lithium to the world, supplying roughly half of the world's lithium, and has significant reserves of nickel, manganese, copper, aluminium, and cobalt, which are all elements that are critical to the manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries, has almost 100% of its lithium-ion batteries imported from overseas. There are currently no Australian companies manufacturing lithium-ion cells, the building blocks of batteries. Whilst there are many companies mining the constituent elements that are used to manufacture lithium-ion cells, especially lithium, there are only a handful making the precursor or active materials that are used to make these cells. With energy storage for grid stabilization and transport becoming increasingly electrified, it is not only financially beneficial for Australia to produce its own batteries, but also socially and economically justifiable. Moreover, the overriding benefit for any country to produce its own batteries is ensuring its own sovereignty, which means having a domestic supply of the batteries that runs the country is very important. An over-reliance on imports puts local industries, government, and general consumers in a concerning position, whereby the supplying market can apply subtle pressure by limiting access, which will significantly impact Australian industry and society. Collaborating with foreign companies and governments would suggest such countries, for example China, will have partnership rights in the battery packs and electric vehicle solutions of that country. Therefore, the batteries won't be 100% Australian made or owned. So why is it so difficult for Australia to have its own truly Australian owned batteries? This is what we're going to discuss in this channel today. Like most issues in life, there are multiple reasons why Australia does not produce its own batteries. And while it's easy to end this video by saying it's the government's fault, I would like to highlight different reasons why Australia still imports all of its batteries from overseas and what we can do to resolve these issues. Number one is the lack of government commitment to establishing a domestic battery manufacturing sector. Apart from lithium and other raw materials that are abundant in Australia, Australia is also the 5th largest producer, the 2nd largest exporter, and has the 3rd largest reserves of coal in the world. This is a resource that requires less investment for it to generate money. So the government of Australia seems to be more interested in asking big companies like Tesla to build large batteries to support the grid, instead of building its own gigafactories and developing truly Australian-made batteries. Conversely, all countries that are producing their own batteries today have a significant support from the government because they focus on locally developed batteries within the country. Over the past decade, the Chinese government has provided more than $100 billion to the new energy vehicle industry. The support has come mostly in the form of generous subsidies and tax rebates for buyers. The government also provided $214 million in electric vehicle research, funding primarily for battery technologies, along with tax breaks for factory land. At the same time, China blocked foreign competition by creating a list of batteries that Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers could use if they wanted to be eligible for subsidies. The US government under the Biden administration have also taken a similar route, providing several tax benefits, policies, and investing a total of more than $9 billion to boost American production of EV batteries. When examining promotional material for European battery manufacturing in the EU, local and federal government support is also very strong. Advantageous local property and taxation schemes are generous. Investment is available through government-supported bodies such as the European Investment Bank. This is a comparative advantage when comparing situations like that in Australia, where some Australian companies like Magnus Energy are building their own battery plants overseas. A significant government commitment to establishing a battery manufacturing sector in Australia maximizes its abundant raw materials like copper, nickel, and lithium, which could in turn stimulate further private sector investment for local battery production, as well as provide companies with wage subsidies for battery factory plant workers. This will control the cost per kilowatt hour for domestic battery production in Australia. At present, there is a lack of battery-specific initiatives in Australia. There are, for the most part, no policies designed specifically to facilitate the growth of the battery industry. Only 4 policies funding pools are directly focused on opportunities in the battery value chain, and 3 of these policies are WA state government initiatives, that is the Western Australian government. Number 2, lack of technological know-how and equipment to convert raw materials to batteries. Although Australia is well endowed with all the raw materials for the manufacture of batteries, these raw materials go through more complex purification and manufacturing steps before being used in batteries. Currently, very few commercial productions of battery-grade chemicals in Australia, and most are pilot scale or have licensed technologies from established companies. An Australian company, very small particle company, VSPC Limited, has built and piloted a process for the manufacture of a key cathode material, lithium-ion phosphate, and companies like Magnus Energy, International Graphite, and Zirconia are on the track to produce graphite, silicon-based, and lithium titanate-based anode active materials. Given its distance from other markets, which will limit exports initially, Australia needs to be creative in how it supports a domestic market for battery production to incentivize companies to establish manufacturing in Australia. Despite some progress by Australian companies in developing relevant technologies and small-scale lithium-ion battery capabilities, Australia needs to attract investment and technology transfer and all patents from existing lithium-ion battery manufacturers to develop the required level of capability. Another reason is the highest salary costs for plant workers and operators. Given the high salary costs in Australia when compared to countries like China, Europe, the US, and African countries, one must ask, will Australia ever be able to manufacture batteries at a competitive or cheaper price? To put things in context, according to Accenture analysis, construction workers in Australia earn over 30% more than their best paid peers among benchmark countries, primarily due to the small Australian labour force and high activity in the construction sector, which will most likely be the same if there was a battery industry that was active in Australia. Due to these potentially high manufacturing costs for large-scale production, the battery manufacturing industry in Australia has been using imported cells from overseas for assembling battery packs into purpose-built power delivery devices, with relevant power management systems, sometimes on very large scales. These companies are generally addressing niche markets where reliability and safety override price considerations. These are 3 key reasons why there are no Australian-made batteries today. What are the solutions? What are potential solutions, or how can Australia realize an Australian-made battery that its citizens will be proud of? Firstly, I think the government needs to shift its focus from selling Australian-mined lithium to large corporations or nations that build batteries to locally manufactured batteries, and not just building grid support energy systems from Tesla battery packs. They also need to support researchers and universities working on battery development, as well as offering competitive incentives to help startups remain in Australia. Secondly, to bring large-scale manufacturing to Australia, significant capital investment will be required from government and private investors to achieve a high degree of automation, thereby decreasing the number of battery plant workers in the labor cost associated with manufacturing cells. Lastly, the wider energy industry in Australia should also be intensifying its focus on Australian-made batteries to build on its solar panel market, which is doing so well, so that at a local level, residential battery purchase will increase as the RRP decreases and customers see more value in owning home or residential batteries. Beyond manufacturing, stimulus needs to flow into supporting a nascent marketplace for domestic products. On an individual level, what part can we play in addressing the issues surrounding battery development, and what are the opportunities? Well, battery recycling is a rapidly growing market, projected to be worth $66.6 billion by 2030. By recycling every battery you use, you can actually contribute to a green circular supply chain and economy, whilst putting Australia in the right direction to be a leader in the reuse and recycling of lithium-ion batteries. At least, even if it can produce its own batteries today, that's something it can do to support the industry. Are there some more reasons why there are no Australian-made batteries? And what are other ways we can address this issue? Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please show your support by smashing the like button, sharing this video with a friend, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you, and see you next video.